Chrystofer Benson, who you may have heard of, is a multi-award winning hairdresser. His work is frequently on the cover of magazines around the world. He has his own production company and education team called CBC, or Chrystofer Benson Collective. And he is also the Senior Vice President of Global Creative Direction for Clics, a revolutionary color tech company. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. I'm your host, Robert Hughes, and I'm here with Chrystofer Benson, and we are going to hear his story and how he got to where he is. Hello, Chrystofer. How are you today?
Great. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I thought we'd just get a little introduction to you and what is your path through of your career? So how you got into hair and how did you get into competitions?
Well, I'm a third generation hairdresser, and I've always grown up around salons while never ever thinking I would get into the industry. And then I moved away when I was 18 from Salt Lake, where I grew up, and moved to Vegas because apparently that's what you do when you're 18. Because you can't get into anything till you're 21 down there. So I think that was quite insightful knowledge on my part. I grew up in my grandparents' house. So I grew up with a single mother, and my grandparents were hugely important to me. At the time when I moved to Vegas, my grandfather had had a heart attack. So I came home and he was like, "What do you think about going to school?" And I was like, "School for what?" And he suggested going to school for hair. And I was just like, "Where is this coming from?" And I kind of laughed, honestly, because I just never really considered it. But family in the business really thought it would be something I could do and do well. And I think sometimes people come in your life, Robert, that, things, they see things for you or bigger for you than what you even could imagine for yourself at the time, right? And so more out of respect for him, I honestly went in to check out beauty school and see what it was about. Saw 70 girls and thought, yeah, this could be cool.
Yeah.
At the time, I really had no interest in doing hair. And then it's interesting you say competition work because, I had an uncle who was heavily into competition work and lived in the area and did very well. And so here comes, the next generation, and everybody was like, here's the little Benson and he's going to win. And I didn't win. And it was probably the best thing that happened for me because I'm super competitive by nature, and that just lit a fire under me. And I was like, that won't happen again. Needless to say, Robert, it's happened many times since then. Yeah. And I think they're all learnings, right? But it really just lit a different fire under me that I wanted to know more. I wanted to be involved in the industry. And then, that led me to going to competitions nationally and internationally. And I think that when you go to those, a lot of them are held where shows are held as well. And so for me, it went from competition work of really, styling one thing over and over so that you perfected it. And then you walk into an arena where you see all these stages going on and collections and teams. And so for me, my mind just went from this singular idea of competition work in one look to, wow, this is a whole different perspective of the industry. And so I've met a lot of different people. We networked with a lot of different people and started doing education about a year out of school. Probably had no business doing it at that time. But somebody, again, I think goes, "Hey, you can talk a lot. You should get up and teach." And then I think you realize you have a responsibility when you get that opportunity to put value back to people, and a responsibility that if you're going to get that stage, that you need to give somebody back something, good, bad, or indifferent. Because I've been doing a lot of things that I've watched, and I'm like, okay, that's something I just want to use. It's all how you look at it, right? And for me, I try and look at things in a positive. I'm not saying every day is perfect because that's just not reality, but I try and look at things in a positive and find the best in things. I've seen the other side of it, and it's easier to go, today's a good day, I'm alive, and I clearly am here to do something still. So let's get on and let's go see what we can do. So I think having that approach and surround yourself with good people, and I think that's a big thing as well. So for me, once I got into education, then I got an opportunity to start doing education with Joico. I did that for about 10 years, became an international artist. And then I got an opportunity with Matrix for being their lead hair cutter at their Global Academy in New York that was just brand new opening. And I was with Matrix for 17 years, 17 amazing years. And I just felt like it got to a point, and I think, over COVID, it made everybody just stop, literally, and unfortunately, but it made us all stop. And for me, it made me stop and look at everything in my life. And I think it was what I call the strip down and rebuild. And for me, like you're there for so many people, and it went from like being in front of people to talking to people a lot, Zoom calls a lot, virtuals a lot, counseling people a lot. There was a lot of people that went through a lot of things, myself included in that towards the end. And I think just emotionally, we get so charged with being able to be in front of people and do stuff with people that it got, to me where I had to go, who are you? What are you? What do you bring? What are you today? What are you each day? I had to strip the titles away, and the titles are fantastic, and I think they're all earned. But for me, award winner, global winner, all those things are facts. But for me, I'm still Chrystofer Benson, and you have to be happy with what you see in the mirror. And every day you got to go, what can be better today? And hopefully, each day I learn something. Try to.
Nice. I love all that. That
Yeah,
sounds,
I think if you can learn something, you're doing better each day. So
that's amazing. So when you went to school, and did you ever work in a salon?
owned a salon. Yeah, came out of
Okay.
school, went to the top salon in the Salt Lake City area, and then my uncle, who I spoke about, approached me, and he wanted to open a salon, and so we actually opened a salon together. We're partners in that. We had an advanced academy as well, where we would teach people after they were out of beauty school a lot about competition work and stuff like that. And then worked with a lot of the beauty schools, teaching advanced techniques, going into the schools and stuff like that. And it just got to a point, honestly, Robert, where it was like, a lot of salon, little education. And it got to the point where the two outweighed each other. And I always looked at it as I can go and open a salon again. I may not have
Yeah.
this opportunity to teach at this level and do these kind of things and have these kind of opportunities if I don't seize this moment.
Yeah, that's so it's like really just education and competition stuff kind of out the gate, and you were doing the normal thing of like going to a salon, and then not
Grinding
as
every
normal, but opening a
Yeah,
salon.
grinding every day. Yeah,
What's
no,
that?
I think it has to start in the salon because that's honestly what allowed me to, and I think this is important for everyone. What you do in school is what you're going to do out of school. So,
Yeah.
what you practice in school. And I honestly was a terrible student up until that competition, probably about 4 months into school. And then from there, it
Gotcha.
completely changed and like massive engagement, wanted to absorb everything and still do. And I think that, taking that into the industry and getting out and doing that in the salon was also super, super helpful because that's what I command from the team, right? Is absorb everything. I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers, but together we can create something amazing. But I think you got to get like-minded people that think along that lines. So,
Yeah.
salon 8, 9, 10 approximately years. And then it just got to the point that I needed to move on and do education full time. So the opportunity with Matrix came up, and 17 years did many, many things in the L'Oreal house, from the Global Academy to head of education for Logix at one point, back to a global artistic director for them in the end. And I feel like we did some amazing things and left it in a really good state that the next generation comes up, and I hope that all the education and stuff and time we spent with them, they take it to the next level. And that for me is always what it's about, right? The ripple effect. So
So where does someone like you that's teaching so much? I mean, where do you get your like inspiration and your education? Is it all pure tinkering and creation, or
a lot, honestly, a lot.
yeah?
I like to get a lot of inspiration outside of the industry, and right now, after joining Clics, technology is a huge thing for me, and we really try and wrap a lot of our inspiration around that. So we're always looking at what's the next thing in tech, and how does that apply, and how can we apply it to the hair industry? Because I've done this for a few years. I've used lots of different inspirations. Mother Nature is a huge thing for me. But I think finding things that aren't necessarily what we think in our industry that could be inspiration, and adapting that, I think, has been super cool as well. So, fashion, I think, is a huge thing for me. Alexander McQueen is a huge inspiration. But I also think, people outside of the industry just in how they approach life. Sam V is a huge inspiration to me because of just how he approaches life and who he is. So I think you can look at a lot of different places. I think it's not just in our industry, but for me right now, tech is a huge thing, and we want to bring that into how we're adapting that into what we're approaching with education, not just from a tech side, but also how does that tech wrap into color techniques or cutting techniques or the end results of production of shows and things like that. So that's kind of the idea now for us.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. I love that. I love the idea of getting inspiration in and outside of the industry.
Yeah.
Um, so I have a question. What, like, if someone, I talk a lot with a lot of up and coming stylists, rising stylists, and people that are kind of in a point in their career where they're looking to make a move or something. If someone said, like, was listening to this and say, what, competitions, I never really thought about that. I'd like to get into that. What would be your advice to them to get into it? Anything?
Totally. I think there's a ton out there right now. There's ones that cost enter. There's ones that are free. I mean, you have NAHA, which I think is the pinnacle in the North America competitions. For it's like our Oscars. I think BTC has stuff. There's beauty awards. There's IBI. I mean, there's a ton. This is being involved with it. Again, some you have to pay money to enter, some you don't. But what I would tell you is find creative people that want to vibe. Don't try and do everything yourself. You can do so much more as a team. So find people that like to do makeup so you're not having to do that. Find people that, just want to create pictures and imagery together. And for me, honestly, that's where it started, was just vibing with people. And
Gotcha.
you start to level up based on who you start vibing with. And pretty soon you're going, wait a minute, I'm in a room of insane creatives that we can create at the highest level. And then realizing that you can do that. And I think then it's putting that work out. I think the biggest thing, you got to be comfortable with what you put out, because there is no disclaimer at the bottom of it. So your name's attached to it, good, bad, or indifferent. Some people love it. The harder I push the envelope, the more I do the edgier stuff, the more people either love it or don't. And there's not a lot of gray, and I'm okay with it. I don't really care. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. And what we do commercially for Clics and what we push across stages, I think, is where education should be taught and inspiration should be had. But the competition stuff is what fuels me, and it's what you need to find inside the industry in any capacity. If you want to be the best person that does balayage in your area, be the best at it. And it doesn't matter what turns your fire on, but you need to find fire in this industry besides just what is behind the chair, because there's a million things, and it's just finding what it is that turns you on. And so for me, competition turned me on, which led to a lot of editorial stuff, because pictures, you start sending out the pictures, and so press started picking up a lot of that stuff. And I do just as many blondes and brunettes as anybody else, but all the stuff that everybody sees is all the vibrant, vivid, crazy push to the envelope, because that's what everybody jumps on, and that's what everybody loves in competition work. So it's interesting, but that's what ends up being Benson's so-called box. But there's a big box that I play in.
Gotcha. So really, like, it sounds like following your passion and like looking for what inspires you, but also like building a team, like so really having somebody helping you break it up into parts, so you're not trying to do the whole thing. That's definitely a piece of advice. Like having someone take pictures. I remember when I was coming up, I tinkered with photo shoots. I was at a company that they had their own photo awards every year, and they've had a studio, and they even would say, use the studio. Like, so we go and like find models, and sometimes makeup artists. Sometimes I'd have the model do the makeup. So you're saying, like, just go out there and like just start playing around, and then basically enter one of these competitions.
One foot in front of the other. I think it's just practice. Obviously I have a ton of people that always reach out, especially after NAHA or around NAHA or getting ready to send into NAHA. And there's people that I talk to that just have never even done photo work, and I'm like, I would not enter that with your first stuff. I would build to that. And I would love to encourage them that, I love the goal. But for me, set some short-term goals. Set some just let's get creative, let's get together, let's just start shooting, see what we get, and then debrief it. What worked, what didn't work. Have honest conversations. Don't put yes men around you. Put people that are critical about the level you want to work at, and then go rub elbows with the people you want to work with. I mean, this industry is super cool, and there is a lot of very cool people in this industry. I've collabed with some of the most insane, cool people that I never in my life thought I would collab with, but I reached out and just said, "Do you want to collab?" And sometimes you just got to put yourself and humble yourself and go, you have something that I don't know. Let's do something together, and be vulnerable enough to say, "Let's go do it." But there's nothing wrong with humbling yourself to learn. That's what this whole industry is about. So for
Yeah.
me, it's a muscle you have to flex. It's an exercise that is consistent of learn from everyone around you and these young ones, because they got a lot to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the younger people, if you look at their Instagrams and their work, it's like light years ahead of where
Yeah,
I
well,
was coming out of school. It's insane.
I look at we're about to go to Naha in the next couple of weeks, but I look at like the student category and just what that's evolved to, and I just go, man, the imprint that they get coming out of school with stuff like that, and then when they start producing, that stuff could be in any of our categories. It's stunning. And so to
Yeah.
think that, so for me, that's the beautiful part is it is getting better each year. You start to see more talent coming out, and that's what it is, and that's what it should be. And is competitions the only way? No, that's one way. That's one way to fire yourself up. Photo work is another great way, but photo work, the great thing about it is it tracks everything you do. Good,
Yeah.
bad, and
Yeah.
indifferent, Robert. Good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah.
Sometimes you look back on it, you're like, "Ooh, I thought that was really good at the time." And it probably was, and it's just what you learn. I think it's what you grow to. But no, we've had good laughs with some of the shoots that we've done, and you look back and go, "Wow, man!" When you really think that was like amazing at the time, and then you learn and who you vibe with and things you learn as you go along, and you look back and go, "That's hilarious now." But it's growth. That's the beautiful thing about pictures is even if you're not going to enter into competitions, take pictures of your work. It tracks what you do. It says how much you're, stretching that box that we play in. And I think that it's interesting. A dear friend of mine years ago challenged me to it. Nicholas French. I mean, this guy's an icon upon icons in this industry, and is the one that really got me rolling on Naha and stuff like that. But he said, take some pictures of your work, Chris, and at the end of the week or end of what you do, see how much variety you're really doing. And most people do 3 or 4 things in the variety of what we do when you really take pictures of it and look at it.
Oh, that's good.
Some people call that a signature.
Yeah.
Some people call it your box. And I
Right.
think all what we decide to plan. So
Yeah. I love this conversation. It's all inspiration, kind of finding your fire, a little bit of tips on how to get into kind of showcasing your work through competitions, photo shoots, or whatever else. Um, so, and I love the advice. So just to kind of like, I want to save most of this for like next time we talk. But you mentioned Clics, and I talked about, I kind of said a little bit in the introduction. Will you tell us just like, maybe like a high level overview, and we'll dive more in depth into it next time we talk. But, tell us a little bit about like finding your way to Clics and kind of like what happened there.
yeah, I think for me, you have to mentally change and decide what you want to do. And honestly, for me, I had to remove myself from the situation with L'Oreal by choice. And I still have great bridges with them, and everything was on the up and up, and it just was time. And I think that you get to a point in when you feel like you've made the maximum impact you could possibly make. And then I think, as I said in COVID, I really got to a point where I was going, I want to align with something different that I feel like I can really make an impact out into the industry. And so I had no idea about Clics, didn't know anything about Clics, never heard of Clics. And then after I had removed myself from the situation with L'Oreal, um, I obviously got entertained by a lot of different people in a lot of conversations, and ended up having a very serious, long conversation with them. And they were at a point where they were about to come to market and didn't really have the brand visual, if you want, perspective on what I thought. They had something so disruptive, and I thought what you're coming to market with does not match. And we had really hard, long, honest conversations about it. And we came in and completely flipped upside down in the best way. And just, it's one of those things that was really interestingly built from trust. They didn't know me, I didn't know them. We'd done a lot of research on each other, and it was like, actions speak louder than words. So we just got to work.
Nice. Love that.
Launched in Orlando of last year is when it happened. So just a couple months after I joined them is when we pretty well brought it to market.
Nice. So if anybody's listening or watching and they're wondering what is this Clics thing, and I said in the beginning, it's a revolutionary tech company, tech color company, and we're gonna dive more into it and the next time we talk with Chrystofer. But it's literally going to change the way things are done in the salon. I'm really excited about it. I too am a lover of tech, and so I really look forward to it. But just to kind of like, and correct me if this statement is wrong, it's kind of like a Keurig of color, kind of like the Home Depot, kind of mixing your own paints together to kind of create your color. Is that basically?
It's it's high level. Yeah, it's AI app based. It has a dispenser. I mean, so Clic stands for Color Lab Inventory Control System.
Okay. Cool. So we'll dive into that, and next time we talk with Chrystofer. And I just want to say thank you so much. I think that this is really great to hear. I do have a lot of students when I go into schools and talk to the students that they ask questions about photo shoots and competitions, and I also think it's awesome to like really kind of put like a foundation of all that is based on like finding your fire and your inspiration. And I do agree with your statement about you really need that in this industry, and kind of give you that long sustainable path of in this space. Before we wrap up, I like to end with a laugh, and I like to ask all of my guests if there is a time when something happened and they look back on it and they can laugh about it. Did you have something in mind?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a couple. I mean, obviously, I'm known as a colorist, but I am a cutter as well. I think from a color standpoint, and we've all probably seen this, where you mix up bowls and it ended up, completely different. I like to put really progressive stuff, so when things are not what they think they are, things come out very different. So that was one. I think probably the one that's the funniest is having somebody change the blades on one of my razors for a show, and we were doing like a hot intro, so we were cutting hair fast. Took the guard off, didn't put the guard back on, so it was needless to say, one open cutthroat razor, and that first cut was short. And at that point you start blending, Robert, and so you look back at that, and that's where does the mullet come from? I mean, things like that. So
that's awesome.
You look back on it and you go, wow, man, we were trendsetting before we were trendsetting. So
I love that.
I think we've all seen silly stuff like that. You grab the wrong pair of shears, you think it's fitting shears, it's not. So things like that.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, and really appreciate having you. And everybody, this is Chrystofer Benson, and we'll have him on the show again, and we'll learn more about this Clics Color company and what it's all about, and why Chrystofer loves it and why he joined the team. So, and if you are listening on podcast, please follow and give us 5 stars. I help support the channel. If you're listening on YouTube or Instagram, please subscribe, follow, leave a comment below. It helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. Really appreciate you for listening. And again, thank you, Chrystofer, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.